Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, willkommen, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba, ave. It's time for the Armis Inquisition yet again, coming in your ears at 96 kilobits per second on Sunday the 21st of November, episode 208. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
The dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness.
We've got Ryan back with us, the sorcerer of secret science, Ryan 7.
Hello, how you doing out there in the internet?
Very well. We're going to carry on pretty much from where we left last week, aren't we? And do some more decoding of the ancient wisdom.
The ancient mysteries.
Yeah.
Yes, it got quite intense last time, I think. So
I was
the sequels are usually twice as much.
I was thinking like even someone who's like not completely unfamiliar with this stuff, who's done a bit of reading around it, I'm still gonna have to watch them
a few times.
Yeah, because there's just so much, and you little things that you notice as you go in that you'll notice the second time that you maybe missed the first time. So
they're very rich, especially because I've done this through images rather than just talking
visual
about
images.
Visual images.
Yeah.
So these things are dense and very depthful. They say about a lot of the occult images that they have at least 4 layers of meaning to them. That's not strictly true, but they're getting at something, basically.
Yeah. I was thinking, what we were just saying before, it might be a good idea just for anyone who missed last week. Well, first of all, you need to go
and listen to it now.
Yeah, go and listen to it or go and watch it first. But maybe just to give a quick, brief overview for the people who watched it a week ago, maybe it's sort of the basic overview of what we covered last week.
Okay, so I had been studying the mystery traditions, the secret things that the ancients and the modern people were doing. And through those searches, I was looking at the tarot. The tarot then led me to look at something called a Sator square, which it turned out there was an example of quite locally to me. And I went and had a look at it at about 1 o'clock in the morning and was quite amazed that those images looked less Christian. They were in a Christian churchyard, and more old pagan, as they would say, religion, very, very taroistic, they had an alchemical, magical bent to them. Yeah. Bearing in mind, these are like medieval images, so things are transitioning anyway. That the medieval world's picking up from the ancient world and kind of regurgitating a few things they've got, not quite at the Enlightenment yet, but it does carry through the Enlightenment. In fact, this information sparked the Enlightenment. It was it Medici that said, stop translating Plato or whoever, and we found the Hermetica, Hermes Trismegistus. This is where the wisdom is. And so they chucked all the much lauded philosophers to one side and studied Hermes, who is Mercury from Alchemy. And that basically started the Renaissance, funnily enough.
Yeah, and some of the things you pointed out last week, just like on initial viewing of these stones, are things that scream like Templars or Saturn.
Saturn, that was what we got down to. The square itself says Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, Rotas. It's a 5x5 square and can be read in lots of different directions. And from that square, you can pull out words like Satan and Aeon and other Saturnian gods, and we derived that Saturn is actually a god of time, and that he seems to be intermingled with Christianity somehow.
Yeah.
There's a veneer there. It seems to be peeling back not just a veneer from these pillars proposing themselves to be what would be modern Christian, but in fact there's like a Gnostic, Christian mysticism layer at the back of it. And this mysticism isn't something just Christianity has. It's something all the traditions share to a greater or lesser extent.
And it was something that was stamped out by the Universal Church, the Catholic Church, in the early centuries. I mean, it pretty much died out around the 4th century, maybe, AD, the Gnostic sort of stuff. They were persecuted, weren't they?
They were. However, what the Vatican did was take it for themselves. So the Pope's 2 keys are the keys of Janus and Cybele. Cybele, it's a strange looking word.
Yeah.
And these are basically the keys to the spring and the autumn. Within Saturn's remit, as we were saying last time, is the power of the force. This idea that there's a death and rebirth, and during that process you can gain the energy necessary for rebirth. Going from winter to spring would be the analogy that's used, but this power can be accessed, and we were kind of getting towards looking at it. However, we were noticing lots of other things around this, that it's something to do with time and numbers, and there were some potions included in what we were talking about. There were some magic love potions in the form of hallucinogenic, entheogenic drugs. But we were only alluding to that. So far, we've basically said that Saturn is the pole star, and he is the still point around which all time moves, him being the god of time. Yeah. Anything else anybody would like to bring up? That?
No, shall we plow on?
That's pretty ace, yeah.
Because we talked about the plow as well, didn't we? There was so much crammed in.
Seriously, go and check it. If you've already seen it, that was probably a nice refresher, but go and check that first episode.
So shall we carry on with slides then?
Sure we love.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Look at that. So we discussed the Chi Rho symbol, which is on the next slide. That's that PX. A Chi is the X, and the P is a Rho. A P and an R are interchangeable and are pretty much the same thing in Greek, even though this is in Latin. This is how they were playing it. So we looked at this symbol and said, even though it's related to Christianity, that Chi Rho is really Kronos, the old Roman god of time. That's where we get chronology from. And this is measured by the whirling of the heavens. We had a cross of the sun, which denoted spring, summer, autumn, and winter, i.e. the equinox and solstice, and that people were watching the plough as it goes around the pole star to find the pole star and to see what time it was, basically. Around the pole star is also the Ouroboros serpent, which we'll get into later on. But we're essentially looking at the heavens and using them as an analogy for ourselves and for other things.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So within that, we also were getting onto the fact that Moses is in the bottom right-hand corner there. Now, he has a serpent and a pole. The tree is the pole. It's the axis mundi. It's the thing that links the earth and the heavens. There's the pole of the earth, which is a skew with angle, and there's the pole of the heavens, which is just going straight up, basically. Again, watch the previous episode. So Moses there, his people were poorly, and they were like, "Oh, we've been poisoned." Can I pop that down now?
Yeah.
We've been poisoned, and Moses was like, "Hey, everybody, chill out. Come over here. You check this serpent out. We'll put it on a pole." He called it a brazen serpent, like brass or fiery. So he put it on this pole, and everyone was cured of these snake bites. He took another snake and put it on a pole, and everyone was cured. And we're getting towards this kind of Kundalini thing, and there's a philosophy going on here as well that we'll get into later on. Also, there next to Moses are two little goats that will climb a very spiny-looking tree, and those two goats are symbolizing Capricorn, and they're from Sumeria or Babylon or Syria, somewhere like that, and they're symbolizing this horny old goat energy that one of the aspects of Saturn has, which is the devil and Satan. It's all the same character. It's just basically what time does. What Saturn is the last planet out that the ancients could see, stroke first one in. So he's the boundary around things. So when you that's materiality. So when you just focus on materiality, this Saturnian principle, you become the devil. And we'll see later on that actually, especially in the Kabbalah, this principle of Saturn seen as being feminine, because it's like the matrix to things, that time and space are the actual fundamental, and that whereas Jupiter would be the rules, this expansive thing where we say, okay, wait a minute, we're going to die, so let's not just eat chocolate flavored crisps. We make a rule because Saturn, his father, makes the laws, i.e. cholesterol will kill the human body because of the laws of physics, basically. And that's what Saturn is. He's this matrix. Matrix being like mother, mater.
Yeah, it raises an interesting question there that you mentioned that the ancients used Saturn as this analogy for time.
Mm-hmm.
It implies that they knew that it was the furthest planet from the sun, the furthest visible planet from the sun.
Yeah.
I presume the only way they could have known that would be by calculating the orbit through observation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that orbit is in synchronicity with the orbit of the moon.
Oh, right.
That it's 29.5 years for Saturn and 29.5 days in a month for the moon. So you get guys like David Icke that start, in my opinion, start to read it totally wrong and say, Saturn's this control center that limits you, and then the moon's broadcasting it to you. And it's to me, it's a misreading of this mysticism, which is basically that Saturn's this limiting factor, and the moon is like seen as the last stage of metaphysics before it pops out and hits you. It's like a lens. Everything that came before it gets lensed out through the moon, through the unconscious, which is true. All these things are philosophically true, if not actually true.
Cool.
So in the middle there, we got Carl Jung. He's got serpents. That's not actually Carl Jung. It's one of Carl Jung's drawings.
Got a tough paper round.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't get that out of my head. That was brilliant. He's got all these animals, these instinctual, unconscious creatures at the bottom of the tree that are kind of gnawing on the roots of the tree. The tree symbolizes unity, the fact that the whole universe gathers as it gets towards this pole star point. And then you get things like alchemy on the bottom left. That's the tree of life with 7 serpents around the top. The planets were seen as serpents. We'll get into that in a little bit. And obviously that tree gets towards unity. You'll see that, I can't see from here, but I'm pretty sure that'll be Mercury, the symbol for Mercury at the top. That looks like a caduceus. 2 little horns, yeah? Excuse me. And it's this unity tree, basically. All the branches, as many branches there are, there's a single root. We use it, the tree of life is still an analogy for life. No, if David Attenborough was talking.
Sure.
Much as I like to compare myself to Dave. Right. So, we spoke briefly about how the Christmas tree is the same symbol, the serpent of time, stroke Kundalini stuff. Wraps up the tree in the form of tinsel. Then you've got the baubles, which are the stars. And then at the top of the tree is the pole star, stroke pineal gland.
Right.
The pineal gland is a unified organ. It's the only unified organ in the body. It's not split into 2 parts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
And some people, this is in your brain.
It's right in the middle of your brain, just like the pole stars are right in the middle of the heavens.
Right, and some people call it like the third eye. Like
Seat of the soul.
Yeah.
It's been called many things. This is all speculative. It has links to DMT. So we're starting to see these same concepts cycling over and over again. That these heavens whirling around are an analogy for something in you. That you are an axis mundi. That this pole of the earth, the pillars of the Masons, the Christmas tree, however you want to look at it, the Jed pillar of Osiris, all of these things are you as much as they're anything else. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life and death are equally the pillars of the earth and galaxy, and the two pillars within you. Those two pillars are the nervous system and the cardiovascular system.
Oh, right.
Essentially, the endocrine system.
So the nervous system, would that be sort of the spinal cord going up there and finishing
the spine
at the brain?
and spinal column, yeah.
And then you can imagine that it goes into nerve endings like a tree, like tree roots or tree branches. Yeah. But what about cardiovascular? How is that? Is that the same?
That's similar. Like if you look at a set of lungs, you can see the
bronchioles and
all that jazz. Yeah,
it's via that system that essentially everything's pumped around. So, the nervous system indicates to the endocrine system is all your hormones, which are basically the seven. There are different glands on the end of your nerve endings that come from your spine, and there are essentially 7 of them, like 7 planets or 7 chakra. So we're getting beyond ourselves. It's a nice little teaser, but let's not go too far. So we've had this Christmas tree, which we've essentially said is this Cairo, this PX symbol with the alpha and omega, and that denotes time. Alpha and omega, the beginning and the end, the masculine A, the feminine omega. The P is Saturn's scythe, but it's also the plough and the pole star. And essentially the juxtaposition of the tilt of the earth, if we look to the image of the earth with a little circle above it next to the PX, we can see that that's on an axis of approximately 23.5 degrees, from 21 to 25 degrees, but approximately 23.5. And because of that axis, we have the seasons, so it's time. These are the factors of time. Now, that point of the pole star changes over a long period of time, over the aeons. We've spoke about aeon being infinity and or a very, very long period of time. So the pole star, because of this axis of the earth, changes over this long period of time. So it's never, ever the same. And this is where we get the Ouroboros serpent, that this serpent of time is going along the marks of its back, essentially.
And it will return to the same point.
It will return to the same point.
The long count, which I'm guessing we're going to get to at some point.
We are definitely going to get to.
Because I love that sort of stuff. The
you're gonna
procession.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we were saying that a lot of this information is in the tarot, and that's how I've come to it. It's not a silly divination system. It's a condensation of these mystery traditions. Survived, fortunately, and easy to access. And so that Cairo was also called a Tauro. And we're going to quickly decode that now. And we're going to compare my crappy drawing on the left that I just threw up quickly because there's nearly 100 slides here. So it was a case of, so just throw it up quickly. So what we've got is, if you look to the image to the far left, we have a pole. Well, that's the pole of the Earth. Those that T bar for the T cross are the planets, the planetary plane, the ecliptic.
Yep. So
even though those are right angled to each other, they aren't actually. They're a bit skew with by 23.5 degrees, which creates time. And at the top of that pole is the plough. I've written there plough stroke scythe, and I've just written Draco next to a funny swoosh over the top because That's the dragon, the serpent that eats its own tail at the top. Now, if we look to the very right of the bottom row, we see a serpent nailed to a cross. So we can see that serpent is the planetary, the ecliptic. We'll see why the planets are seen as serpents. Well, an easy, quick definition is that curling motion that the serpent makes up that pole is the same as the planets make when you look at them, because they're always going into retrograde, which means they go backwards. Because
if you're observing from Earth.
If you're observing from Earth, everything seems to go backwards, because we'll go on the opposite side of the sun to them, and what seemed like they were going one way, suddenly they're going the other way because we've looked at it from the opposite direction.
Yeah.
A bit like someone holding a left hand out, and then you walk around behind them, and to you it's suddenly the right hand.
Sure.
If you know what I mean, that swap sides, like looking in a mirror. So we're going to refer that also to these Kundalini things that we were saying before. Kundalini, by the way, to people, for people that don't know, is the idea that through things like special techniques of yoga, you can summon an energy from near the pelvis that can go up the spine and activate your brain in a different way. And that nailing of the serpent would be the fixing of this state.
Right.
And also the getting off the wheel of fate, because those planets for the ancients, as they do for astrologers now, symbolize fate, as it were, because those are the variables that are happening in life, and each one of them, depending on where they are, symbolizes a different aspect of psyche or reality. So now if we look at the second image from the left, we can see a Mayan stroke Aztec, of the life of me can't remember now, I think it's Mayan, Tau cross. Is that you can see just by looking at it, it's the same. It looks the same. On the top is a very psychedelic macaw, and that is the, it says there, it's the Big Dipper, but it's the plough. Same thing. And then we can see a double-headed serpent underneath that on the T-bar. And that is the ecliptic, the planets. These planets, like we said, that are in many ways they're serpents. In more interesting ways than I just discussed, the serpents. And then underneath that, we've got basically the axis of the Earth leading up to the Milky Way. So it's all just the same. They're all the same symbol. They're all a symbol of their cosmology.
Right.
Their cosmology being the Earth, and then 7 planets, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, all based on the orbital speed, as Phil said before. The Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Then, so those were the wandering stars, the planets, because they moved in relation to each other. But the stars in the background didn't move in relation to each other. Those were the fixed stars. Yeah. This was seen as like being almost infinity. Very nearly infinity. Where the aeons come from, which is this slower processional movement. But we'll get into that. The procession is a backwards movement due to the axis of the Earth. Mm-hmm. So now, as proof of this, I cite to you this angle. If you look in the top left, we can see Osiris being risen, who pretty much exactly delineates that angle. And we can see next to that, in the second image from the top right, is the 21 to 25 degree, i.e. 23.5 of the axis of the Earth. And then on the next image again, it's the raising of the Jed with Osiris on the right there. And the Jed is the axis of the Earth, the coming of the summer, the falling of the winter, whatever it is. Right. And every time you see this green line, basically, it is that angle of 23.5 degrees. One of the problems here will be, as we go through this presentation, especially into the later stages, is that some of these things line up so well, they're difficult to see because they actually draw over the thing that they're supposed to be aligning over, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So
who's this ugly grey guy in the middle?
So
the
that
biggest
is
image?
Mithras stroke Aeon stroke Uranus stroke victim. Stroke victim.
So this is
that was supposed to be a joke.
Oh, sorry.
We're all joke victims.
This is Roman, isn't it? Mithras.
Mithras, yeah, and Aeon before is basically the same thing, yeah. But he's Persian originally. I don't want to answer too much, but the last card of the tarot is to his bottom left.
Has he got an iPhone?
Yeah. he's got a key, which we've seen before, which I will say is the plough. If you think of the shape of the plough, that's that, which is the same as the keys of Saint Peter. I wish I'd have got this slide. We'll see it for next time. There'll be a next time, I'm sure.
And we've another one. Bottom left, we've got this serpent again, the caduceus symbol, the one you see on doctors, Red Cross and stuff like that. The serpent travelling round the pole. And then we've got your stones again.
We've got the stones, and our Saturn, our time god, who's holding a big T on a cross, is holding a ruler because there's a weight and a measure. And that ruler is at 23.5 degrees.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. So he's above Jesus, who we're also denoting is essentially a teacher god for these powers of time, for this resurrection part of Saturn. He's like the human aspect of the god. He's a teacher, Jesus, just like a lot of these guys were. Mercury and
a lot of occult authors, they refer to him as a master.
Master Jesus.
The master, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can understand it, yeah. He is as Jung would have said, he is the perfect archetype. So I've come to Jung again recently from studying all these things because I realised that he could confirm it all for me. I'd gone and done it all for myself, which I'm grateful for, even though it was a pain in the backside. But reading Jung, going back to Jung, I had tidbits. I got Jung, but not really. And just really going in depth in his work, it very much lines up with what I've been doing. His last book, I don't know. His most difficult book was Aeon, which is that god there and the god on these pillars. So,
wow. Which
talks a lot about fish as well and the meaning of the serpent and things like that, which is totally what these pillars go into. As I was saying, to the bottom left of our ugly lion-headed friend, that is the same character essentially on the last card of the tarot from a medieval deck, surrounded by a lion, a bull, an eagle, and a man, which we've already said is this galactic cross. Mithras himself there is on a...
It's all right, carry on, man. I don't know what's happened to Matt. Oh, you there, Matt?
Just switched off.
It just switched off, or you?
You just switched off. Just bored now.
No, don't know what happened.
We're on the slide with it's got loads of different pictures of sort of gods with the green highlighted pole at 23.5 degrees.
Yeah, the pole dancers.
The pole dancers.
The pole dancer, I like that.
Yeah.
So that card's called the World, and is considered the completion of the work of tarot. This tarot, this work of the heavens. Remembering that Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, Rotas means the sower, Saturn, holds the work of the wheels, and these are the wheels. We're doing these wheels of time, the wheel of the planets, the wheel of the heavens spinning around us, which is beautifully poetic. And here we go, and here are the wheels. So the top left is a graphic of the procession, stolen from Randall Carlson's
fucking
stuff.
love him.
You gotta love Randall. A lot of this stuff later on we'll touch on Randall Carlson's work. I've not done all this myself. I noticed it. I noticed all the things I've noticed myself, and then gone to look, see if anybody else has found these things.
Did you watch his? Have you ever seen his series on sacred geometry that you could download?
I must have done.
Fuck. Well, I'll lend it to you if you haven't got it. It's brilliant.
Just I want him to be my granddad.
I know.
I think he is actually Father Christmas.
We have mutual friends as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a really busy guy, and I'm not sure he'd ever. I don't know if he would do our podcast, but we do have mutual friends. He'd be one of my dream guests.
Oh mate, get him. Let me come.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah, try and do that.
Oh yeah.
I've got contacts with Graham Hancock, kind of.
Mm.
I've written articles for him and stuff, so I'm sure he'd do it Zoom or something like that.
Yeah. I might put some feelers out. I don't like asking.
I'll ask.
Just do it. That's with Graham Hancock. I got hold of him on Facebook. I said, "Oh, son, found all this stuff. Have a look." He went, "Go on down, lad."
That's just like Graham.
Yeah, let's have a gander at that from Bolton. Graham Hancock from Bolton. Graham Hancock with a D. So, Randall Carlson often talks about the procession, and the procession is essentially the key, and is the main theme of all the secrets of the Masons. Those two pillars, we've already said, is basically this juxtaposition between the axis of the Earth and the perceived axis of the rest of the galaxy around us. What it really is the ecliptic. It's the planets as they go around the sun, and that's seen as a plane. And the axis of the Earth is 20 odd degrees off from that plane, just skew with. So, because of that angle, not because of it, but that angle actually wobbles as when the spinning top slows down, it starts wobbling around and doing that spinning thing where the top of it is actually spinning in all kinds of directions, but it's relatively stable. So too with the Earth. And because of that, there's possibly several other reasons around it as well, including the Earth being a binary star. Do we go into these things or no? They're very interesting.
Milankovitch cycles. We don't really know why. We've got ideas.
We've got ideas.
It's so hard to... This is what blows my mind, is the fact that they were even aware of it. Because the idea is that if you go to the same place at the same day, on a same place on a given day, and look due east at sunrise, there's a slight change in the stars when they rise. This is what is sort of the visible, how you would measure procession.
Yeah.
But it's the change is so minute. I think 1 degree of procession is around 72 years.
It's exactly 72 years, and that's one of the numbers that we'll have to look out for.
One of the magic numbers. But 1 degree of procession would be about the width of your thumb or the width of the moon. So you'd have to stand in the same place every year on the same day, looking due east for 72 years to see a thumb's width difference in the way the stars appear.
Bonkers.
But they knew this, and they encoded all this shit. And this is the long count, the processional cycle.
The processional cycle.
You see this wheel down in the bottom right.
Yeah. It takes 25,900 years, stroke 26,000 years to go through the whole thing. We don't want to go into it too much, but because we'll get into it later on, the real meat of it. But essentially, what we're saying is there's a very long... You got a day, you got a month. A day's because of the sun, a month's because of the moon, a year's because of the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And then we've got this other cycle, which takes 26,000 years. And it's split up into 12. Each one of them is an age, or an aeon. Remember that word from this god Aeon? Each one's an aeon. And we're heading into the age of Aquarius, just coming from the age of Pisces. And when you look into the mythologies of most of the ancients, dependent on what star sign was coming up in the east, just before the sun popped up in the morning, whatever that star sign was, kind of dictated the flavour of the religion of the state at the time, because they saw themselves as having to adapt and adjust, as we do now, into the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, so each processional month, if you like, lasts about 2,160 years. And the age of Pisces happened to start around the time of Jesus. And then before that, we've got age of Aries, would it be before that?
It was, yes, the age of the ram.
The ram, and the ram's very significant in Judaic.
Significant everywhere. You get from the Masons, Hiram.
Hiramabith.
And then Brahman, Abraham. You get all these Rams, Ramses, Gordon Ramsay.
And it's in the iconography as well, like the artwork from that time.
Oh yeah,
You know, the Pisces, Jesus the fish,
Jesus the fish.
all sorts of fisher of men.
Once again, Phil, you've got there way before everybody else.
We need to get some water carrying merch on the go. Get
This is it,
it on the ground floor.
This is where we're going.
So I think that about wraps that one up. Right, now let's get into this. These we're going to get into the numbers quickly, and then we're going to dip out of it because this can be a head masher. So, if you watched the previous podcast, the reason why I went to Rivington to look at these ancient stones with a Sator square on them is this magical talisman by a magician called Eliphas Levi, who was a French fellow. And that's all that's important about him. So around that, we have these 4 directions, the 4 cherubs, the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man. And around that, we have Yod He Vav He, which is Hebrew for Yehovah Yahuwah. So now what we're going to do is decode this. We're going to just decode the outside because the centre's something else. We've already kind of looked into the Sator square and seen it's this Sator swastika, time, pole star. We're looking at the center basically, and everything else moves around it. So first of all, let's decode the JHVH in Hebrew. So if you look in Hebrew gematria, J is worth 10, H is worth 5, the V is worth 6, and H is worth 5.
Just like Scrabble.
Only you have to take drugs to be able to play this one. Well, it's true for Scrabble as well, come to think of it, yeah.
And this isn't just sort of made up numbers to suit the purpose. Hebrew is one of these languages where numbers had numerical value as well as
Greek.
Numbers always have
Phoenician.
numerical value, Phil.
Sorry, letters had numerical value.
I didn't even catch that one.
No, I didn't.
Right, so basically JHVH is 10565, which is 26 in Hebrew gematria. We've said 26 recently for 26,000 years. Right? So then the thing, when the pebble dropped, is that even a... when a pebble dashed, the moment that made me pebble dash was when I realized that if you take those 4 zodiac signs, the bull is the 2nd sign, the lion is the 5th, the eagle is the 8th, and the man is the 11th. Well, that equals 26 as well. And I just knew that that's the 26,000 years of procession because those guys are pulling that circle round anti-clockwise.
Of course they are. They're going the wrong way round.
Yep.
Why are they going that way round? Because they're
Because
telling you
it's procession,
something.
yeah.
Nothing's by accident.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, did you say the bull was the 2nd sign? What? How is it? Why is it the 2nd sign? Why would Pisces not be the 2nd sign?
Because it goes Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer.
Is that just a convention? Or?
It's the year. So the springtime, the year, ploughing season, the bull. Your kids are usually born around Gemini, excuse me. Cancer, midday. Leo, the heart of summer, the middle of the day when the fire, the sun roars. That's Leo. Right. You'll have me staggering around here.
You're not driving, are you?
No, I walked it for this very reason.
Right, good. So that's Jehovah.
That's Jehovah. So we've got these 2 26s, and I know that on that Jehovah, there are 24 dots, which is like 24 hours a day. Okay? Times that by 3, because on each one of those dots, there's 3 little marks on top of the dots. There's like 3 little flamey marks. So I just times it by 3 and got 72.
Oh, fuck.
So I put 24 hours a day is 72 years in a processional day. And 26 plus 26 is 52 weeks in a year. So like if you took 72 times 360, you get 25,920, which is the true number of this processional year, but 26,000 years is enough. And at the bottom there, although I'm sure there are other things to decode about them, there's 2 lines of magical letters. One is the 7 planets and one is the 12 zodiac signs. I'm sure there are other things about them that I've not quite got my head around. And they very much remind me of the weird letters that are on the pillars. Do you remember that crazy first pillar that we looked at? It said like Vwick P and all kinds of other Bigadized.
So where do those magical signs come from? Is that what Levi?
Yeah,
did he make that? Well, he didn't make them up, but
no, the kind of from what's the guy called? The Agrippa's book of Cornelius Agrippa's book of occult stuff.
Right.
Schlock. And yeah, he was the one that started doing all that stuff. Okay. As far as I know, it's basically. Do you know Grant Morrison, the comic book artist? He was ranting and raving about sigils. How you basically just speak the unconscious onto a piece of paper and make a sigil, and then burn it or destroy it or whatever, and send it off into the universe. It's a similar thing. That just. With that said, though, this guy's an actual magician, so. But that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
That basically, once we've brought this thing down, we've got all this pole star magic number stuff, and I do mean these are magic numbers. We'll see as we get into the rest of it. I will point out quickly, just in case we don't later on, that we've spoke about Baphomet and the sacred androgyne and all these other things, and that upward pointing triangle is masculine, the daytime, Jupiter. The downwards pointing triangle is feminine, Saturn, and the two together obliterate each other in a cosmic explosion that nullifies itself, and is the pole star around which there is everything turns, but itself is a unmoving point.
Cool. Back to the stones.
Back to the stones. So similar thing that we've got this wheel, we've got these weird peer Wickpea and other strangeness. So let's move on to the next slide and just go through it quickly. We've already mentioned that actually, if you look at that, maybe go back one, might be a bit bigger. No, it's no bigger. Around that wheel, as there were on previous tarot cards of the Wheel of Fortune we looked after, it does say tarot. It has the letters 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 2:30 are the 4 letters that make tarot. Those add up to 54. Those are very important because twice 54 is 108, which is 1080. Twice 1080 is 216, is in 2160. Twice 216 is 432, is in 432.
It goes on and on.
Yeah. So
sacred geometry.
These hyper harmonic numbers that can be divided by. When you take most numbers, if you divide it by something like 5 or 7, you're going to get a point, whatever. 6.1752312. So But with these numbers, when you're dividing it by whatever, most of the time, you're going to get a whole integer number. So if we look to the top left of the wheel, we've got this Tau Rho Ankh. And I've read that, if you read that as P and T, that equals 36. I'm using what's called simple gematria or Latin gematria or English gematria, which is every number is equivalent to, every letter is equivalent to a number starting from 6. So A is 6, B is 12. So automatically we're going to get these kind of numbers out of it because it's base 6. It's the base 60 that the Sumerians were using, that these original guys were using to denote time.
Right, rather than base 10 that we use now.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of base 10 still. It's like base 10 stroke base 12. It's very strange. We did it for a while. You count to 10 and it's 11, 12, and then 13 suddenly another number. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And basically we're counting. It's like duodecimal. That we're counting up to 12 in dozens and whatever. because it's easily divisible, but the actual number system itself is in base 10. Right, let's not bore these people anymore. That's as deep as you're going to get. Right, the rest of these are just quick patterns of numbers, and you'll see numbers like 1080, 72, 36, 360. If the naught appears on the end, don't worry about it. So P and T equals 36. It's in 360 degrees, so I'm thinking circle. There's already a circle there. It's a circle. Under that PT, to the top left at like 10 o'clock on that wheel, is in pink, a little, very hard to see, 72. It just says 72. It's not even hiding it. It says 72.
Fuck you know.
Yeah, right. So 36 times 72 is 25,920, or 2592, the processional year. PT in Latin gematria is equal to 216, a processional month.
Yep.
In the bottom right, it says DCLXVI. Well, it's complicated, so we'll get into that later.
This is the bit that's in the shade.
Yeah, in the shade. Sorry, it's very difficult to take photos in this area. It really is, genuinely. You've got to get up very early to go and get it, and I'm not an early riser. I'm more of a midnight cowboy. So, DCLX VI is 666. I'm actually starting to think it might be 660 now, and I'm not quite. That keeps coming up as well. It's almost the same thing, but basically 6 times 6 times 6 for all you Satan worshippers out there is equal to 216, which is a procession. 2160 being a processional month again.
Yep.
Tarot in simple gematria, which is around the wheel. It's around the wheel and the wheel of fortune on the actual tarot, and it's on my wheel, is equal to 54, which is basically 2 times 54, 108, 2 times 108, 216, 432, and up. So what's special about this wheel, apart from the fact that somebody special clearly spelled on it, is that it's got 14 of these little nubbins around the outside that look like flames or flags or drivers for a golf club or just
snake heads.
Snake heads. I was going to say little cobra heads. And so I was like, well, it's the sighting the 360 degree circle. So I divided it by 14. And you get 50-40, again, 54, 50-40, which is called Plato's number, which is the reason why the ancients used base 6, base 60 to do everything with, because that number is so highly divisible, you can divide it by any number, as long as it's an integer, and you'll get out another integer. It's like this ultra harmonic number can be divided by everything. It's just magic.
Oh, you've got it. I'm just thinking about number 9, but
it's number 9. All these add up to number 9.
We're coming there.
So 360 degrees divided by 14 rather than times 14, we get 25.714285714285714285714, and it just carries on. Those numbers, anybody quickly, in parentheses, for anyone that does vortex maths, Mark, wherever his face, Mark, not Rogan.
Ruffalo?
No, not the Hulk. I forget that. Sorry, mate, I forgot your name, but the guy who does vortex maths, those are the numbers associated with vortex maths, taking out the 3, 6, and 9, which Tesla was always fawning over. And that number there is one of the very few non-integer numbers that has a repeating sequence.
In the decimal point.
In the decimal points.
714,285. 714,285. 714.
Yeah, we just carry on.
Summon something.
But this is great. And this, we're getting to something magic about all these numbers and how they relate to number 9, which I found out about a year ago.
Yeah.
Reading a book, which didn't even reference it. It didn't even tell me this, but I noticed it when I was looking at the page, and it just creamed my brain and made me want to cry.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah. It's like the universe going, yep.
Yeah.
Yes, mate.
Something weird here.
So now we're getting something really cool. This is where my work goes into another chap's work very briefly, but we'll come back out again. The man's name is Alan Green from Manchester, lives in LA, was the band manager for the Monkees, tour manager for the Monkees back in the day. Really nice chap, really knows a lot. basically decoded all this in Shakespeare.
Whoa.
Alan Greenfield.
Alan Green, his name is.
Green.
Green, yeah. So I'd synchronistically watched his video within a day or so of looking at this pillar, and I'm trying to decode these letters around the outside. So you get the P, if you would read from the top left, PYHRV. That's a strange, the next one, PYHRV. Next to that is actually a VW symbol. I've not coloured it in properly there, but when I looked at it closely, and this will come up later, it's actually exactly the same as a VW symbol. Like a Volkswagen, yeah. Like it's like two V's juxtaposed next to each other, but the right arm of the first V and the left arm of the second V are hyper extended, so they cross. And we'll see about that. We'll see about you later, Mr. VW. We'll get to the bottom of you. Bloody Nazis who are obsessed with all this stuff.
Number 9.
Number 9. So the universe conspires that all these kind of numbers, if you add them all up together, add up to the number 9. So if you add 5 and 4 for 50-40, you get the number 9. If you add 4, 2, and 3, you get 9. It's called digital routing. It's very useful. It allows you to see the patterns in numbers.
And the big long count, 25,920. You add all those digits up, and it will either add up to 9 or it'll add up to a
18, like
a power of 9. So 18, 1 8 is 9.
Yeah.
Or it'll add up to 27, 2 and 7.
Yeah, every time.
Ace.
Every time.
And if you do that with a 9 times table itself,
even a 30.
9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, just
Forever.
keeps on returning itself. Yeah.
I was doing this on a calculator last week.
Right.
Right.
Boobs.
Any number you pick, if you times it by 9, any number, whole number,
right,
will go.
Yeah.
So, and it comes up to 8,500,000.
Yeah.
Add all those digits up, it will be a power, a divide.
Funnel down to 9.
Yeah.
So,
and I've done this up to 7 decimal places.
Really?
So, yep.
Cool.
Even decimal places. So 459.37461 times 9.
Wow.
Add all the digits up, and it'll always reduce to 9.
Hours of fun.
It's mental. It's mental.
Very cool.
That is quite cool.
Yes.
No, it's very cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Sorry.
So
yeah,
essentially,
cool.
what that suggests to me is that is the null pole around which everything else spins, because it just returns itself. There's nothing going on there. It nullifies itself by just giving you. There's just 9 there, and it stays there.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, in Mark, whatever his name is, Vortex Math, 9 is the central pole on it around which it does that, and he's got that pattern from putting a digital root on the 10 times table. So if you get 10 times table from school, 1 to 10. If you digital root all those, so like if it's 100, it's 1 plus 0, 0 is still 1.
Yeah.
If you do that the whole way down, the number sequence that you get going up to the middle reverses and comes back out the other way. It's just nuts. It's just nuts. Right. So forgetting that for a second, if we read these words, basically, I was just trying to work out if these letters were actually numbers, and when I plugged them in, TY, that PT I just read as a T, so TYHR is equal to 624, 426, sorry, and then VWPKEE, because that VW, there's a V, then a VW, right. So it's VVWPKEE is equal to 624. So I got 426 and 624. And then it just went bling. And we'll see in a second where that leads to. Other than that, the center spoke is the 7 planets, 7 days, or the 7 plough stars around the pole. I couldn't tell you which, probably the 7 planets, but those 7 planets are related to the 7 stars that are in the plough that go around the pole star as well.
All right.
Okay. Oh, wrong one.
Moving on.
So, now this is from Robert Grant. I think his name's Peter Picton or Plickton. I only heard his name in an audio podcast. However, I'll explain this to you really quickly. This is amazing. But basically, imagine you had a clock of 24 hours. And every time you get up to 24, you start it again. So above 1 would be 25, then you go around in another loop, and then you keep doing that. And that is this cross. All the different colours on here denote that due to the juxtaposition of the numbers in that way, i.e. a clock, like it's been suggesting, that we get this Templar cross style thing, Maltese cross. All those numbers are basically prime numbers, or they're special numbers, and they all fall into a pattern. Suddenly, miraculously, everything's in a pattern. On one of the arms, so if you look at 12 o'clock, at what would be 0.5 o'clock, the next column on, going clockwise, that's got a lot of the prime numbers in there. I forgot the colour coding right now, and I can't see this screen well enough to be able to look at it myself. However, basically, the prime numbers go up there, and what does that say to you for cryptocurrency and things like that? That cryptocurrency is based on mining prime numbers. And I know where all the prime numbers are. They're in that column. All those numbers in blue are these hyperharmonic numbers and base 12 and all these other things. And there's 426 sat in that left-hand column, and on the upper column is 624.
Right.
So this is, I got onto this from the work of Alan Green, and this is the work of Robert Grant, I think, before, and Peter Plickton.
So basically, 624 and 426, they're not random, insignificant numbers.
No. Look, I can't guarantee that is exactly what those numbers are, but the synchronicity of the universe, and this is pretty wild, isn't it, and very specific, and we've been dealing with crosses the whole time, and we got it from a cross. We got it from a cross. So I actually asked, I'm like, I keep hearing you talk about these numbers, like you've come across them before, haven't you? I think, is it 624? 426 is Shakespeare's birthday. There's a ruse that goes on. And Alan actually found a lot of this geometry and number stuff in Shakespeare. Not only did he find it there, and you'll love this, do you recognise that square on the left-hand side?
Left-hand side.
And I've put communicated on the 24th of June, as in 624, by angels.
No, I don't recognise it.
Right. So this is John Dee's table of angels that was communicated to him in the 1500s by angels. Right? The 620.
So you have to explain who John Dee is.
John Dee was the court magician to Elizabeth I, coined the term British Empire, was essentially Merlin. All modern day versions of magicians are based on John Dee. He was a cryptographer, an alchemist, magician, the smartest man in Europe, the largest library in Europe, the original 007. He signed all of his he signed all of his documents.
His code name.
Yeah. He signed all of
007.
his documents with 2 holes for eyes, and then a hand shielding at the end, covering the eyes for 007. Your eyes only, all that stuff.
Wow, shit.
Yeah, he was the man, basically. Expert navigator, amazing mathematician, geometer. And basically what he's done is gotten off his head and communicated with angels, so-called, the unconscious, the universe, the Akasha, whatever, and derived, or just lied, and derived, or was deceiving himself because he was off his head, derived this table of 624 characters, right? So we've already said 624, 426. What, I think it might have been Mr. Green there, derived that circle that has been discovered is essentially a circular version of this table. It's the same thing. Right? So what does it do? Well, I've heard on many accounts, I've not checked it myself, but I trust the people that are on it, that are saying it, that basically that table creates a tesseract, which is a 5-dimensional cube viewed in 3-dimensional space.
5-dimensional cube?
Viewed in 3-dimensional space. There's a picture of it there. As you look around, you can look at for a video of it on YouTube, but as you look around the cube, that inside seems to come out and folds back on itself. It's high-dimensional geometry that he's been making.
That's mental.
Isn't it? Like, as far as you thought of weird as it was getting last time, it's getting nuts, isn't it?
It's getting worse because I can just see Enochian tables there.
Yeah.
Which just scares me.
Well, Enoch went up and saw the heavens and saw God and the countenance of a lion, a bull, an eagle, and a man. All that stuff's Enoch.
Wasn't he one of the few people who apparently ascended, as far as the Bible goes?
Wasn't he? There's like Ezekiel and Enoch. One of them became Metatron. I am the Metatron.
Yeah. Alan
Rickman.
Alan Rickman. Yeah.
Potter. So, yeah, well, everyone familiar with this stuff will have heard of Metatron's cube, which is geometry based on the Vesica Pisces. So it all does wrap into itself. I'm not like, Anyway, this is nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts.
It's just, we just went 2 dimensions up. Well, I suppose we're in the 4th if we're talking about time, but we've just gone to the 5th.
Fucking hell, I read a book this year which absolutely bent my head when it comes to dimensions. A new model of the universe by Uspensky, I think it was.
All right, yeah.
And the way
Uspensky.
PD, yeah. The way he describes how dimensions work and trying to explain what a 4th dimensional being or a 5th or a 6th dimensional being would work. It's the best way I've heard it explained, and you just feel like a complete idiot when you're reading it because it's so difficult.
Well, can you really get your head around it though?
Well, I think that's part of the argument, is that we wouldn't be able to see it.
No.
We wouldn't be able to see
You'd
it from our
see the
plane.
shadow of it, as it were.
Yeah,
a
or
slice of it.
the face of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're looking at there with this Tesseract cube.
Absolutely.
This is, what would happen with that cube is you'd turn it around 360 degrees and it would look different to how you started. You'd have to turn it 720 degrees, 72 degrees, 720 in order for it to look the same. A lot of quarks and things like that do this. They have more, it takes more than one spin for it to look the same as you turn it around, and thus we know they are high
Spooky action.
Yeah. Spooky action at a distance. A bit of Einstein quoted there.
Wow.
It's mad, eh, mate?
Yeah,
It is
all of
mad.
it.
Right, so let's not delve too long in it. I think this is the last one of a bit of maths, and then we get into a bit of psychology. So,
Snooker.
It feels like we've got it feels like we got a bit ahead of ourselves, really. We're talking all this highfalutin mathematics stuff, and it's provable by itself. It is just all those things that we said about the numbers is just true. It's true. Those numbers are real, and it wouldn't matter if we're deceiving ourselves about this Polestar stuff. That set of numbers is real and does do those things.
It's like Randall Carlson says, these are numbers, they don't lie.
They can't. In fact, these numbers tell the truth so much, they explain themselves and announce the fact that the brothers and sisters are just ahead of them. They're so harmonic, are they? So from that, we can say, why are we getting so highfalutin, on these pillars? Well, there is a Pythagorean tetractys inverted. There's a few balls missing, but it would be 10 by 10.
Shit.
Sorry, 10 spheres, right? And Pythagoras used this as his main teaching implement. Pythagoras was an ancient Greek who went round to Babylon and Egypt and all the other mystery tradition places, and then came back and set up his own little culty thing that basically spawned philosophies and religions.
First academy, wasn't it?
Yeah, and music.
Sure, yeah,
And
the music
music.
of the spheres is famous for
and
it.
Pythagoras' actual music was tuned to 432 hertz, Pythagorean tuning. And if we look at these, imagine the balls on the left, the snooker balls on the left, we're going to flip them round as they should be into a pyramid shape, and we're going to look at them via the image on the right. If you take a string, we're talking harmonics now. If you take a string and pluck it, it'll go, let's pretend it hits a C. C. Hold it in the center and it'll be an octave up. C.
Yes.
Pinch it into thirds, it'll be a fourth up from that. And then pinch it into four, it'll be a fifth up from that. And basically what you're doing is you've got your first note, and then 4 notes up from that is your fifth. And anybody that likes music out there, most modern music, most cool music is fourths and fifths. And those are all ratios, and those ratios are explained by the sequence of those balls. They are also an analogy for what we now know as Kabbalah, the tree of life, 10 spheres. If you work from the top going down to 4, you've got the monad, the one thing, then you've got duality, then you've got the Holy Trinity, then you've got the quaternity of the 4 elements. And this is like an explanation of metaphysics for the ancients. If we look to the bottom left of that diagram, we've got the name of God from Hebrew again, Yod He Vav He, put out. So you basically read it in a lot like the Sator square. You can
Where's that?
read it.
I'm missing that there.
So if you go to the right hand image,
Yeah.
bottom, there's like a triangle to the bottom left of that.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
I can't. I'm looking for the Yod Hey Vow Hey.
Yeah, there's Yod He Vav He,
There's letters.
Yod He Vav He, all those Hebrew letters there. Can you see them?
Right.
Good, yeah. It's like a pyramid. There's a triangle.
Oh, right. Are we reading backwards?
Yeah, it's Hebrew.
Fuck.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Sorry,
Hebrew.
everybody.
Hebrews. You read Hebrew
We
backwards.
read Hebrew backwards.
Fuck. I've got it now. Yeah, because I was
Yeah.
looking for the hey. And then, hang on. It's hey Yod Hey Vow. What?
Oi! Yod!
Right. Yeah, good. Yeah, top tip. Always read your Hebrew
Read
backwards.
backwards.
Otherwise,
Sorry,
you won't make
sorry.
any sense.
You forget sometimes, though, don't you, that, you know, all these little nuances, and that you forget that not everybody knows all this stuff.
Well, it's just so much, isn't there?
So let's just do this quick so we can get off these bloody numbers. If, as we said before, Yod He Vav He is equal to 10, 5, 6, and 5. Stick those in that triangle, you get 72 out the end. And actually, if you times those numbers by something like 40, you start to get the weeks, the days, the months, and other stuff. There's lots encoded in that Yod He Vav He. So it's very clever. It's very clever. So I think that adds some very similitude to the fact that we're dealing with these crazy number systems and all these things. Because quite frankly, on the Wheel of Fortune, that's so messy. You know, apart from the 14 things around the outside, I'm kind of clutching at straws, really. However, you know, those things are there. It's just, am I reading it right? I might be deceiving myself, but it doesn't matter because I get the same thing at the end of it anyway. That there's these crazy number things, and you know, I've got the wisdom at the end of it anyway. So who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Would anybody like to take a minute or anything before?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I think that
Can do. Should we? Do you want to pause? Because I could do with a
I wouldn't mind. Yeah.
leak. I might have a leak.
I'm out of a league. I'll wait till after you've gone there.
Take it in turns.
Right, we'll have a brief respite for
Can
5 minutes.
Matthew beatbox?
No.
You can have a go.
Bit of entertainment.
Have you not
while
got
we're gone.
have you not got any small tubs of ice cream?
With little plastic or
Some pans.
paper.
Tell you what, I went to the circus at Blackpool
Yeah.
at half term. It's brilliant.
How could you tell the difference from the local populace?
They were good at juggling. Right, I'm going to
Was
kill.
that it? I thought there was going to be something after that. You went to the circus at Blackpool.
Oh, did they
Oh,
have
no,
the ice cream?
There was no like sacred geometry going on or anything. No, but the juggler was good. He juggled 10 balls.
10 balls.
10?
That's the same number as the number of snooker balls that should have been on the pillar.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
4, yeah.
Right, let's pause. I'm going to kill the mics. Stay on the line. We'll be back in a minute.
Okay. Can we all relieve ourselves at the same time?
What, Matt?
Doesn't matter.
It's still there, Matthew. Oh, I've not got you turned up. You still there?
Yeah, I just muted myself because I'm just eating some fake moams.
Sugar.
Right then, we're back after a brief respite.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna give it. We're saying Matt, we're gonna give it another half an hour or so.
Going to give it the beans for the last half hour.
Give it the beans for half an hour, and then we'll do part 2 quick. Do the news because
Okay.
there's some funny stuff that can't be ignored. So then, Ryan.
Yes.
Where were we?
Right. So let me go back an image. So we just basically come off the pillars and said we'd validated the reasons for suspecting that there's all these maths up there. And then we said it doesn't bloody matter anyway because we've got the results and whatever course we've gone down, we've solved these mysteries. Now, we've said several times that these pillars have the veneer of Christianity. Now, it's slightly unfair because when you track Christianity back, there was no veneer. And a lot of these mysteries were on the surface because at the time, they were occult. And you'd imagine that all the people in the know would have known. And so this is now a page of Christian iconography from the very beginning of Christianity. Top left, we've got a swastika, one of the oldest Aryan stroke Proto-Indo-European symbols that we have. And we've determined that it's basically denoting time and looking at the plough going around the pole star. Next to that, we have what we could call a wheel of fortune or a clock or whatever you want, a PX, a Cairo, and then a slightly more complicated Cairo with an alpha and omega and a P at the top, and then a tau row, which looks like an ankh, exactly that. And you got to think that basically we're in Greece right now. This is where Christianity, it was supposed to be in Aramaic, but basically the first Christian texts are written in Greek.
Yeah, Septuagint.
Yes, so it's around the area of the Mediterranean, the Levant, Upper Africa, Egypt, and the west of the east, as it were, near Jordan and Israel and all these places. So this is where it's come from. This Mediterranean world, this quite warm, quite nice. The sea's easily navigable. You can go to Sicily for your holidays if you want to. Bit of Benidorm. So, just going along the top row, we've got what's called a crux gemata in the swastika. Then we've got a Cairo, and then we've got another Cairo, and then we've got a tau row, and then we've got an anchor. Anchor.
Anchor. Of course.
Right? So then next to that, we've got an anchor with 2 fish for Jesus. Right? And then the middle on the left, we have an upright fish with one eye, in profile, basically. Next to that, we've got a weird anchor looking very similar to the fish, really. The bottom of the anchor's upturned, just like the fin of the fish is upturned. And then next to that, we've got another Cairo. So what I'm getting at here is the similarity of all these images. Essentially, they're all variations on the same theme. And we know that theme so far has been the poles and the pole star. So the bottom left, we've got an anchor and 2 fish. And then the large image that I think brings it all together, we've got swastikas, a big anchor, 2 fish, and then a bloke being swallowed by a fish, getting head from a fish. So, his head's been swallowed by a fish. A head's a very old shamanic, a head being missing is a very old shamanic metaphor for being off your head. Often you'll see guys with no head. St. John the Baptist had his head cut off.
Of course it is.
Lots of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, actually, where we're going now is somewhere we've already been previously in the previous episode, and that is in the depths of Saturn. So we've got the swastika solar Saturn pole star. We've got this anchor, which is clearly, this pole and the pole star and this human body thing that we got going on. You can quite imagine that anchor looks like a pair of hips and the top of the head and the arms, if you get me.
Yeah.
Right.
Hips, spine, shoulders, head. You dig?
Yeah.
Right, so I'll tell you now exactly what's going on. This is astrotheological. We know we're in the stars somewhere. Those two fish are Pisces. We're in the age of Pisces, Jesus, and that fish is Cetus, also known as Leviathan, also known as the whale that ate Jonah. That's Jonah being eaten. And when they asked Jesus for a sign, or they're asking for a sign of Jesus, they said, the only sign I shall give you is of Jonah and the whale. So we'll advance from there.
Oh my word! This is very artistic.
Right, so we discussed in the previous episode that the nighttime is Saturnian, the daytime Jupiterian, the winter Saturnian, the summer Jupiterian. So we're in the quadrant of the zodiac that is during winter. Capricorn is December. Then to the left of Capricorn, who's the goat there, we can see the water bearer, Aquarius.
Yep.
And then top left of Aquarius is Pisces, the two fish there.
Mm.
And then bottom left of that is the big sea monster, who is Cetus, or the Leviathan in the Bible, who swallows Jonah. And then under Aquarius, who's bearing in the water there, there's an upside down fish on his back, with his belly out.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly describe these guys. So we've got Capricorn, end of the year, sacrificial goat. The goat dies, and half of the goat is in the water. Well, we're in the waters here. We're in winter. Summer will be fire. Winter is the water. We're in the waters. And you can see all the creatures around here are watery animals. So we've got Capricorn. Aquarius bears the water, and he actually bears
His arse.
his arse. Yeah, well, he is the homosexual of the zodiac. He's this gay man. He's taken up by Jupiter and made to his cup bearer, with all the connotations around that.
Yeah.
That cup is the vessel of water that he has that carries ambrosia, the nectar of the gods. You can quite imagine what that might entail. And he pours out these waters, these fertile waters, that are also the flood waters, the cleansing waters, because this guy's Noah, we'll find out later on. And those flood waters are drank by the fish on its back. That fish is the same fish that ate Osiris's penis and contains...
That guy.
That one again, nibbling away. He contains the resurrection power of Osiris. He's eaten his penis. That's the resurrection power. He's drank the stuff of the gods. That's the resurrection stuff. Jupiter's rains, if that's to do with Jupiter rains down, and that's the, as the ancients saw it, sperm fertilizing the seed. It's this sexual power of rebirthing the year. And as we saw in a previous slide, in a previous episode, often Janus, the god of January, who sees the end of the year out and the new year in, has the back of his head as Capricorn, the old year, and Aquarius is the new year. And then the floods come in to cleanse the year. This is the star card in tarot that's cleaning itself with the waters. Because once you've died, the old you needs to be washed away. Pisces...
that sounded a bit like baptism then.
A lot like
Right.
baptism, him being Ioannis or John, who holds the cup with the serpents in it.
Absolutely.
So above him...
John the Baptist.
Revelator.
The Baptist.
The Baptist.
the Baptist of the waters. Yeah, so we have Pisces there, who is essentially two parts of the soul. Right, so there's a part of the soul that looks to connect back up, is swimming towards the pole star, so back up to God.
Yeah.
And I can see you got a question, but if you wait,
No.
And the one on the right is kind of going off in his own direction. The one on the left is called Aphros, as in Aphrodite, was said to have carried Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, but carried her to the surface of the waters, the foam of the sea, where she became Aphrodite Urania. You might as well say Aphrodite Aeon, i.e. Aphrodite being the goddess of love, a love born of the universe. We'll get into this later. You could see that as Jesus. Jesus has a love born of the universe. He understands the whole thing. He loves the universe for what it is. The other fish, the other part of the human soul, is swimming off in its own direction, just doing its own thing. That would be Lucifer, doing its Luciferian thing. I've got the light. I can do what the hell I want to. I'm just going doing my own thing. These are the two parts of the human soul. The one that connects back to God, the Jesus one, is the archetypal soul that belongs to the universe. That everything that you do is essentially archetypal. If I pick something up, you know, that, for example, water, the archetype of water in tarot is the archetype of the cup because it holds a volume. Water is a volume of stuff. It's the emotions. It's, you know, the emotions are your volume of, you know, what the actual flavour of you is right now is interested. That's your emotion. This is the cup which holds you. Do you see where I'm going with it? So that's an archetype. And all these archetypes rule you. There's nothing that you've ever done. You know, you have a child. Well, father's an archetype. Everything, and the womb was a cup. The child is a cup for your genetics and your wisdom. You know, all these things are archetypal. And so a part of you is totally eternal and dependent on the universe. Whereas another part of you that can say, fuck it, is your own soul and is going your own way and isn't necessarily, if you chose to, you could starve yourself even though the universe bids you to eat.
Yep. I'm struck by the famous Solzhenitsyn quote regarding this about we have the fish going up, which is the part of the soul that wants to go to unity or God or whatever you want to call it, and then we've got the skewer fish, which you equated to Lucifer.
Yeah,
and it just reminds me of the Solzhenitsyn quote: "The line between good and evil runs through the center of every man's heart."
Yes,
lovely.
This is what we're witnessing in pictorial, symbolic form.
That's gorgeous. I love that. I've heard that before. So now, turning to the dark, we might have said Lucifer, but Luciferianism really is just doing your own thing, essentially, and fuck everything else. Cetus, that would be the dark side of you, basically. You know, I love my wife and kids, but I'm going to go and do what I want to with this woman anyway.
Yep.
Or whatever. Cetus, is the dark side of God, is the dark side of the universe, is the shadow self of the universe. And he swallows you up. Even if you're sorry, even if you don't want anything to do with it, your father's died, your house collapsed, you just lost your leg, and it swallows you up. That's Jonah in the belly of the whale. And once he comes out of the belly of the whale, he's a prophet of God because he's assimilated the dark side of God. As Jordan Peterson often talks about with Jung, that Aeon, the book Aeon, was much of it was about, okay, the Nazis were real, but that's in you, and don't think it isn't in you. You would do those things. Look at what's been going on in society recently, and how easily everybody's led, and how easily everybody makes decisions for other people. You know, my morals will overlap onto your morals because my morals are superior. I have the backing of other people. That is so very dark. I'm so upset about it. However, that is the dark side of God. That's somebody else's consciousness, i.e. my unconscious. And that, as with a storm that wrecks my house, is the dark side of God. And once you can be swallowed by it and integrate yourself with it and become a wounded healer. There's your ticket. And that's why if Jesus was to give any sign, it would be the sign of the Leviathan, because Jesus essentially, as with those two Jesus fish, the two fish of Pisces, reunite you with the archetype of the androgynous infinity, which is the neutral null state of God. It's all opposites annihilating each other into a kind of love thing, but that would be for another episode.
Yeah. Equilibrium.
Conscious and unconscious are the same. So we go back to the pillars. We've got Jesus with the.
Is that Jesus?
I know it doesn't look like him, does it? Well, don't forget I've coloured these.
Put a bit of weight on.
Yeah, chubby Jesus.
It's a unit.
Yeah.
Which one's Jesus?
Jesus is the guy on the right. Yeah.
Well, on the right. I thought that was Saturn.
No, well, it's the same character,
it's the
really,
same
because he's
guy.
another time dude. Jesus is the teachings of Saturn.
Right.
So he's got the towel cross there, really big one. He's got it running up his spine. So we've got this spine thing again and time. We'll get into the spine thing and why that's related to time later. But obviously, the heavens wheel around the pole. Yeah. And you are the pole, and the universe reels around you. Every man is the center of the universe. Some women. No, I didn't mean it like that. What we've got here is a fish, a fleur-de-lis. Yep. Peter talking to Jesus. This is at the point in the Bible where Jesus, having started off as the Lamb of God, is now the fisher of men. And it's at the end. At the beginning is Aries, the ram, and at the end is Pisces, the fisher of men. Jesus has died at this point and come back. And he rocks up to the Sea of Galilee or wherever his local shore is and sees his mates in a boat. Oh, what are you up to? Yeah. And
they don't recognise him, do they?
No, whoever you are, we're trying to catch some fish. Do you mind? Listen, have you caught anything? No. Who are you? Right, cast your nets to the right, and you'll catch some fish. Who the fuck's this prick over here? Just fucking throw it out. He's watching. He's big. He's a unit. So they throw out this net, and you can see the net behind Jesus there in blue. And they catch 153 fish. Fucking hell, mate. Who are you? Peter gets out. Oh, bloody hell, it's Jesus. All right, Jesus. He says on his knees. And Jesus he's like, flipping heck, Jesus. That's amazing. You're back from the dead. And Jesus is like, yeah, yes, my son, and all this Jesus stuff. But so that's the story, and something to keep in mind. Basically, they cast the net to the right and caught the fish. So you'll notice that Peter there on his knees has got a fleur-de-lis going out of him, which is kind of a symbol of the tree of life. I'm going to say that those two hooks are like the ecliptic of the planets. There's lots going on here. But basically, it's the Holy Trinity. It's lots of things condensed into one symbol. It's a very dodgy-looking fleur-de-lis as well. It looks mushroomoid, let's say. Oof. Caught to the right hook. If I was Peter, that hook's on my right, as in cashewnets to the right. He's caught a fish.
Ah, yes, yeah.
He's caught a fish, and look, we've got a swastika off to the right as well with a three-legged swastika, just to show you that we're still dealing with all this pole star stuff.
The one-legged Saturn going round and round and round.
And Saturn's one leg is depicted by the angle of Jesus' staff once again at 23.5 degrees.
Of course, it is.
Peter's also doing a sign of esoterica with his right hand, which is basically as above, so below, as within, so without.
So you have three. You have your thumb, your index finger, and your middle finger. You hide 2 digits. Yeah. So you've got three fingers out in the open, but 2 are hidden. Therefore, occult. Or just finger guns, whatever.
Finger guns. Well, so Peter's at the root of these 3 leaves.
Mm.
Okay, and he's got 2 fingers out. We'll get back to that later. But we've got this fish, one of these fish, these Jesus fish. Peter's caught a fish.
Yes.
Let's get into the fish.
Oh my word! Look at her.
That's
Or
Melusine.
him.
So on the left we have what's his name? Proteus, I think his name is. Let me have a slightly closer look.
Proteus Oceani.
So Proteus and Melusine, who's up there on the right, are these kind of fish god people. You can see Proteus there. He's not in his fishy form, but normally he's got these fishy legs. He looks exactly the same as Melusine up there on the top right. And we got a tree with a serpent there in the background and a sphinxy thing behind him.
Yeah.
And some serpent dragons. And he's got a fire in a vessel. You know, these repeating themes. So what Proteus was it slips my mind right now, but somebody was told that if they wanted to go back home or wanted to achieve a task, they needed to go and find Proteus. And they needed to grab hold of him until he told them the truth. So whoever it was has gone out, grabbed hold of Proteus, and Proteus is a shapeshifter, and he's changed forms. This guy's grab hold of him until he switched into a lion, a bull, an eagle, a man, and whatever, and then he's kept hold of him, and then he's told him the truth. So bear that in mind as we talk about Melusine now. Melusine is supposedly the demon at the root of the Merovingians.
Oh.
And many of the European kings cite her as the ancestor. Right? Now, note that she's basically a naked lady of the sea, and she's got 2 serpentine tails in her hand, and she's split to where you would hope that a mermaid was split. So we've got this mother fertility, these 2 sweeping arcs from under her belly, getting towards the hip area. Well, you know, it keeps directing us in. When the male gods, we've had the phallus, and the female, we're getting this hip area. So the story of Melusine is very similar to Proteus. Melusine, obviously, is a sea dragony person. And she meets a fella. And he's a king of somewhere or a prince of somewhere. And he marries her, and she's some kind of a queenly figure, so it gives authority to his throne. As with the Merovingians, who were a French dynasty, much linked with all this stuff, and in the Matrix. And so the story was that she told him when they got married, listen, don't ever come and see me on a Saturday. Saturn day, the 7th day. Don't ever come and see me on a Saturday. Else we won't be married anymore, and I'll disappear. So every Saturday, he's a good fella. Years down the line, he's getting more and more. I need to come on, and then
what on earth is she doing on Saturday?
Exactly.
She can't be
all
mending
day.
her bike every week.
All day,
All
day in the bath, in the water, in the bath, in the cup. And one day he gets the opportunity, and he looks through the keyhole, and she sees his beady little eye looking through. Instantly, her bottom end she turns into a true self, which is dragon serpentine form, flies out the window, never seen again. There are other stories around it. You know, there's the as with most things, there's the extended canon.
Yeah, the David spying from the rooftop on. Oh my God, who's he spying on?
Biblical David.
Yes.
I really don't know.
Oh gosh, I'm blanking. But there's Old Testament story of David who goes on the rooftop and is spying the woman in the fountain. In the fountain.
Oh, there you go. Yes,
it's the same.
Okay, right. I'll look that up when I get home. Thank you very much for that. No,
and there's an astrotheological element to that David story, which maybe applies to this.
Yeah, there probably is. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm thinking those 2 curls under her hips are the ecliptic and part of this secret that we'll get into later on.
What's going on with that fella's shoes? It's wigging me out.
The Yeezys.
Oh yeah, I can see it now.
They look kind of mental. So what is this? What is it we're talking about? Right? You've been asleep. So we said Saturn is the god of the unconscious. You've been asleep. Saturday, the end of the true end of the week. Yeah. It's the unconscious. It's you waking up after a dream and trying to remember that dream. And the second you look at it, it disappears. It changes form. It's something else.
Schrodinger's cat.
Very much like Schrodinger's cat, but in your own psyche. Is it or isn't it? It might be. It's like Schrodinger's cat if it was also an apple, a fire engine. You know what I mean? And the second you look at it, it's gone. The guy with Proteus, he managed to keep a hold of it, and then Proteus told him the future, where to go, whatever it was. You know, the thing he needed to know, he found out. So we're dealing with the subconscious here. Okay? Yeah. Let's move on. So this is, again, we've already kind of discussed this, but there's Typhon, to the Greeks, Cetus, this unconscious dark side of God, the big whale fella there. Yeah. Then we've got these two fish of Pisces, who are Aphrodite Urania, Aphros, which means sea form, which will come up again later. Things born of the form of the sea. Dionysus' missus, Ariadne, she was form of the sea. Right. The Oannes comes from the form of the sea. Right. Then we've got Eros here, which means also called Bythos, which is the depths. It's all very complex. We don't need to go into it too much because we're going to decode this a little further on. But basically, the positive and negative sides of the human soul, none worse than the other, really. But you'd imagine that you want to unite with the universe rather than go and do your own thing and be your own universe. Because you are the universe, basically. A lot of morals come out of all this. But basically, all this stuff is the unconscious, is the formlessness of the depths. Pisces itself is to do with mysticism and going into the depths and pulling out these fish, the cat. It's these formless, unconscious forms that are difficult to catch in the depths of your own watery self. You know, dreams, intuitions, things caught in trips. You know, it's your mum knowing when you're in trouble when you were 6 years old, and she came out looking for you because she just knew. It's that
intuition, instinct, unconscious.
It's all unconscious. None more so than the positive fish of those two Pisces fish, representing the collective unconscious of Jung. These archetypes, these things that would exist quite independently of you, and in fact do you. The universe does you. When you look at it deeply, there's nothing you've invented yourself. The universe is doing you through these archetypes. And then we've got Piscis Notius, as in the famous fish, as in notorious. Also called Piscis australis, as in the southern fish, because he's just below the ecliptic band, which would be the hemisphere, the waistline of the galaxy, of the
heavens.
Yeah, the heavens. Yeah. And he's the one again. Look, he's on his back. I've got to say there's something to that he's drinking the waters of Aquarius, and he's got it's ambrosia. It's this potion of the gods, this life force of the gods. You could say the fertilizing waters of the gods. And he's on his back. He's kind of drunk from it.
Is he only on his back because he's in the southern hemisphere?
I thought that too, but nothing else is really that inverted like that.
Okay,
so a few things are, but not really. But yes, well thought. I thought the same thing. So let's go to the next one. Right, now, this is between fish and serpents. And what we're going to get at is that fish and serpents are essentially the same thing.
Oh.
Because whereas we said fish come from the depths and swim up and you've got to keep a hold of it, like these unconscious impulses that you've got to catch. Memes, let's call them. Unconscious memes. Serpents the same, but a bit more external. Whereas the fish are going to come up inside, the snake's more likely to come from the outside. So a fish is a dual creature. It looks like a willy, but it's
Not
formless.
mine.
I was going to say.
Well, they call it a trouser snake, don't they?
Mine's more like an egg.
Oh.
Sorry. Trouser snake.
So yes, sorry, it's saying sorry, and then like I've been saying trouser snake. So what this serpent is unconscious things. As Sator, Pisces is like internal.
Yeah.
Cetus was external.
Right.
Fish is internal. The snake is a bit more external. It's also internal, but it's external. It looks like a phallus, but is formless in this watery, feminine way. When a snake opens its mouth to bite you, it looks like a vagina inside, but it's a phallic. It's this dual creature. It's poisonous, but as the ancients knew, you mix the poison with its blood and you get a medicine. Hence, next to that snake's head there, we get the RX symbol and the snake in the cup for pharmacies.
Yeah.
Right? That RX is PX. And we can prove that by the fish that's above that RX there, the metal fish, has PX on its side. And that's a lamp with this internal juices that is fiery. As you could say, this the medicine is a fiery thing. It's got activity in it.
Yeah.
So those three fish, sorry, all four of those fish are related to Osiris. They're the ones that ate his penis. And all of them are spiky. The top left is a Nile perch, spiky fish. You know, it's a fish that swims up, but it might hurt you. The snake comes out, it might hurt you, but if you can catch it, you can derive medicine from that snake.
Sure.
It's these unconscious things. It's the universe doing horrible shit to you, or maybe exciting shit to you, but you've got to seize hold of that and make the best of it. Your house blew up. I'm really sorry. But now you get to build a new house and put all the things you've learned from building that old house and all the things between, and you get to make a new house and it's better. You know, it's this idea of taking the crap in your life, turning lead into gold. And this is why
Absolutely.
Yeah.
the serpent is Saturn. He's the greater Saturn. Cetus, the serpent, is this greater Saturn idea. He is the great serpent, the great dragon.
When life gives you lemons,
Exactly that.
ain't lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
The universe is always going to be, there's always yin and yang,
Yeah.
order and chaos.
Exactly that.
Chaotic things are going to happen. The only thing you have control of is how you react to them.
Exactly that. That serpent is chaos, the unconscious outside, because chaos is unconscious. You don't know its order.
No.
And then you make order from it. Marduk fought Tiamat, the dragon of time, and the maternal dragon, cuts it up and makes things from it. And this is exactly the same thing.
Again, Jordan Peterson talks about the Babylonian myth and Tiamat and
Does he?
order and chaos. Yeah.
I do like Jordan, you know.
Yes.
He gets a bad rep with a lot of people, but those people clearly just haven't listened to anything at all. Anything.
They've not read or listened to him. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's political.
It is
And
political.
We need to stay away from politics.
Yes, we do. It's polarizing. Is it?
Yes.
That serpent is polarity. He's good and bad. He's the washing up's on the side. I can't be bothered doing the washing up. The longer I leave it, the worse it's going to get. If I do the washing up, something good comes out of it.
Just clean your room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Got you.
this holds the resurrection power. Just this fish ate Osiris's willy, and that contains his resurrection power for the year. When it gets stuck back onto his body, actually another one gets made out of gold. Hint, hint.
Cool.
And stuck onto his body, and then he gets resurrected.
Yeah.
But we're dealing with these fiery. Fiery, I mean by active. These fiery fish. The fish on the top right there is a momirus fish, which, because it lives in very murky waters, sends out an electrical signal, and basically has an auric field around it that it can sense things with. And when you grab hold of it, you can feel a tingling buzz from it.
It looks like a fucking leaf.
It's a weird looking thing, isn't it? But you can see, if you look underneath that, is another momirus fish, a Christian momirus fish with a PX on it. So it's just showing that RX, PX, it's basically drugs, and this pulsar stuff are all connected.
Yeah.
We've got Saturn there stood on a pillar with a wheel, holding a bag of fruits.
And a dress.
And a dress. These bag of fruits will be the same as the medicine, you know, whatever you've managed to reap from that hard year.
His legs growing back as well. It must be good fruit, that.
He's doing well, isn't he? Waiting for his hair next. So that bag of stuff, which is his year done well, because time is that serpent, this measuring serpent, and because from time, we'll go into it later, but basically that bag of stuff that he's got from having a good year is the same as dealing with that serpent. Is the same as in the top right. We got a dragon with its gold. You deal with the dragon, the unconscious bullshit that you got to deal with that you don't understand and scared of, then you can reap the gold. A serpent is shared. Fear of serpents is shared by everybody. If you're a cat, you've seen cats with cucumbers. Yeah, they just freak out because they think it's a snake. So it's this ancient thing, and a serpent in a tree is the same as a serpent coming out of a hole. It's the same as a fish coming from the depths. It's these unexpected, unconscious. It's the unconscious of the universe coming up and going, I might bite you. Oh, fuck. Catch it. Milk it. Medicine.
Yeah.
So now we have these. If we look at the caduceuses, these are the same thing because you can see they terminate. That caduceus there terminates in a cup, and that cup is this same basket idea. The medicine in the cup, it's what you derive from dealing with the bad things that come up in life. And then we have Buddha under, or whoever it is, under 7 serpents, and those serpents are the chakra.
7 chakras.
Because those are 7 unconscious things that control you. If you get me. They're nothing to do with, I didn't choose these things, but they control me. Just like the 7 planets control me. The 7 planets are 7 serpents. The 7 virtues are 7 vices. If you can control these 7 things, and if you can transmute them in a nice alchemical fashion, you can have what would bite you become medicine and protect you.
Right.
So if you weren't very good at speaking, for example, you could let that chakra relax, work on it, do whatever, work on that planet, work on this concept, this idea, this strata of metaphysics, and then when you released it, you can then be good at public speaking or whatever it'll be. Just basic communication, letting your soul out and talking to people. Whereas the serpent, we get the cup of medicine. The fish, you can eat a fish. You get food at the end of it. It's difficult catching the fish. It's difficult landing the fish. It's difficult grabbing hold of the fish. But then you can eat the fish. And so this analogy then goes into the Kundalini stuff. And the tree of life is the Kundalini. The serpent in the tree is the same as the 7 serpents behind Buddha. It's the same as the 7 planets up your spine, the chakra. They're all the same thing. They're these things that work on you unconsciously. My sex drive works on me most of the time unconsciously. I'm always thinking about it. It bloody rules me. And if I can make that conscious, take that energy and put it into something else creative, that being a creative force, then I get something good out of it, don't I? I can turn, if it was something sad, you could turn we keep saying this house blew up. We can turn this house blowing up into a new house, or I could write a book about it, or whatever else.
Yeah.
So if I knock on quickly, Jesus at the Sea of Galilee, Peter's seen him, cast his nets to the right, caught fish. Well, that's exactly the same analogy as a gnome sat on a mushroom catching fish.
It's caught a brain.
It's caught a brain. And if you look on that brain, the left side of the brain is your left brain, the analytical brain. And the right side of the brain is the creative brain. So if you cast your nets to the right, the feminine serpent side, because Eve is to do with that serpent, the serpent side, this unconscious side of you, the moon, the sun being the consciousness, the moon being the unconscious, Saturn being the unconscious.
Jupiter, yeah.
Yeah. So you can catch these fish. These fish are psychic memes, psychic things. It might be. See, I had one that came into mind, but I really can't say it.
Why?
I'll tell you another one. I had another one the other day, and that was I was in the bath I fell asleep in the bath, and the dream was in the bath, and there was a squirrel on the side that looked like he needed resuscitating, and he came to life and he swam over to me, and he became a rat. And then after thought, I knew what he meant straight away, and it was that I've been doing this too much, right? Basically, and the way I've been going about keeping my existence going while I've been studying all this stuff has been akin to a rat. Grabbing this from here, getting that from now. I can wheel and deal this. Do you get me? Scavenging, yes, to get this done. And now that this is being concluded, I need to be more like a squirrel and store things away for the winter. And, you know, and that squirrel was nearly dead. So that's totally what it was. So these are these fish that swim up, and I ate that fish. I understood. I caught that dream. I wrestled it, and then I ate that fish. Now, off to the bottom right, it's not very easy to see, but that is a story of Job. Job sends his son out and goes, "Oh, get me my silver from the bank." Silver is the moon. Silver is the unconscious. The right brain, more than the unconscious, but the right brain deals with the unconscious. Sends him to get his silver. On the way back, a fish jumps out and swallows his leg. This fish is the same fish as that upside down fish, the same fish he's caught there. And he's like, "Fucking hell, fish, get it off me." And it's literally swallowed him up to his knee. And then they take it out and beat the crap out of the fish and pull it off. And then like, God, thank God that's over. You know, I need to get this money back to my dad. And that's horrible. Oh, by the way, his dad's blind. An angel comes down. The reason why his dad couldn't go out and pick up the money himself, he's not lazy, he's blind. An angel comes down, says, "Oh, don't worry, Job's son, Job Jr.
Where were you 5 minutes ago? I've just had a fish in my leg."
He said, "I was always there with you, my child.
Thanks, mate.
If you take this fish, you can make medicine from it to cure the sight of your father." And that's what he does. He goes home, makes medicine from the brain of the fish, and uses it to cure his father. Essentially, being his consciousness, he's healing himself. He's healing his sight, healing his vision, and that through treating everything, good or bad, that's unconscious that comes up philosophically, you can derive medicine from it. And this medicine, because you're dealing with this dual creature, a dual serpent or a dual fish, that duality is a singularity, is the same as the pole star, because it reunites you. What you need, the food you need to make you whole again, is in these duality creatures that you're conscious, it's unconscious. The masculine and the feminine come together, make the sacred androgyne, and complete the philosopher's stone, essentially. The Holy Grail, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, my word.
Right, so we'll do a quick one here, and we've got 2 slides, and then
we've got to wrap up soon.
Yeah, so I think we should come back to this one more, little next time.
Well, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on there.
About 20 pictures in there.
Yeah, but this is the story of Aquarius, and what's in his picture with the ambrosia, and what his story is, and you can see if you're looking, it goes from in the bottom. At 6 o'clock at the bottom, it's Noah's Ark. And if you go all the way around, suddenly you got a bird having sex with a young boy. And then we've got magic mushrooms everywhere. And that bird having sex with a young boy is God coming to have sex with you, making you his bitch. And the result of that is he gives you his fertilizing spiritual goo in a cup.
Lovely.
In a cup.
How was it in mythology? You used to shapeshift Zeus and then just go and have
sex with
mortals.
Yeah, he's the reproductive principle. He's this sex force that we'll get into. And then
is that a Rebel Alliance symbol as well? Just on in the middle picture, bottom left of the.
Turn that upside.
Whoa! Yeah. It's either that or it could be a Romulan warbird.
It could be a Romulan warbird. If you flipped it upside down, it's a mushroom.
Oh right, yeah.
But right, so I'd like to do this for you quickly, just to show you how at the beginning we mentioned. By the way, we're going to go to that last slide again next time. But we were talking about these things have several layers of meaning. Now, there's obviously a moral there. You know, listen to your unconscious, cast your nets to the right, and you'll be able to get these little memes of information that you'll be able to decode and use for your life because your unconscious knows what you need. Right. Now, Jesus, once Peter cast those fish out, Jesus goes, there'll be 153 of those little buggers.
Yeah.
And
completely random number.
Yeah. And sure enough, there's 153 fish. Now, the Jesus fish comes from, that we can see there on the left at the top, comes from something called the Vesica Pisces, or Piscis. You can see why people would say Pisces, because it's the fish. But it means the center of the fish, the bladder of the fish, they often say, or the womb of the fish. Now, a Vesica Pisces is two circles intersecting each other, the edge of one meeting the middle of the other. Simply put. Yeah. If you do lots of maths with this structure, which is very, you can see why it's sacred, because so many numbers come out of it that are called the metal means. So you get golden ratio and square root of 2 and all these other things. Well, if you measure from the width of this fish that's created by the two circles coming together, you get you basically get, in contrast to the rest of the circles, the square root of 3. Okay? Dead simple. And the lowest whole number way of expressing the square root of 3 is in a ratio. And that is 265 by 153. So there's your 153 fishes that you'll catch with the net to the right. There's lots of other diagrams there to go into it deeper. I don't need to do that. Have a look at those if you want to. But basically, 153 keeps popping up all over everywhere, as does 265.
So 153 is the lowest whole number to describe the Vesica Piscis.
To describe the square root of 3, which is that ratio there. Everything just comes together. Yeah, built in.
To the Vesica Piscis, which is like the prime. It's like the beginning of sacred geometry. It's the first thing you learn to draw. Yeah, and we can see why. On that left panel, there's a Vesica Pisces next to the tail of the fish, and we can see it says like square roots of 3, square roots of 5. Square root of 5 is to do with golden ratio. There's lots of amazing things that pop out of that. Pi's probably in there somewhere.
It's just literally it will all be to do with pi. Those, interestingly, are called the metal means, the golden ratio being the golden mean. So you can start thinking about what it meant when alchemists were transmuting the metals.
Yeah, lead to gold.
So I think that is actually a perfect place to end it.
Excellent. Boom.
Coming up next time, guys, we've got all the mushrooms you could require to fill your pummit.
Excellent. Can't wait for that. Well, gonna have to rewatch this again because there's just so much, isn't there? Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for coming again.
Welcome, mate.
Yeah,
thanks
amazing.
for the wine.
Cheers, Ryan.
And we'll be back for part 3 soon.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yes. Right. Catch you on the flip side. Don't touch that dial. We'll do some quick news deconstruction and some housekeeping, and then we're fucking off into the night.
Bong.
Ta-ra.